As I was having a checkup in the hospital, Oishi-san asked me all sorts of things, but I don't really remember what he asked, or how I answered him. From what I heard, surprisingly, Mion still hadn't been captured. There were apparently a great many hallways and small rooms extending out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't be strange if she had fled to one of those and hidden herself. Man, it is that big that the police are having a hard time finding her there. You would think that she would be just running away from the prefecture entirely. Or hide in the forests. The one fortunate aspect amidst all the misfortune was that Shion had been safely secured by the police. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her and then kill me. And she probably didn't have enough time to, though, since Oishi-san came running in faster than she predicted. That was the only really fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now had a big, deep wound in her heart. She was in a severe state of confusion when they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist. Phew, man. From what he heard, she was seeing Mion in everyone she saw. Hated not only the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere in Shishibone, hiding her location. Man. Additionally, in fear that Mion would come for her, she was moving from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where she actually was. Wherever she was living, even now, Shion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at this moment, since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices. Hadn't Mion thrown the corpses into a well? I had a feeling I'd said that to him. That meant a hidden tunnel, vertical like a well, was somewhere in those underground passages. The secret underground, without any maps or architectural drawings, which had swallowed up the remains of Rika-chan, Satoko, and everyone else, was still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again, too, for an on-the-site inspection or something. But I didn't remember being of any help. I never wanted to go back there again. Understandable that you wouldn't want to go back there, for sure. For days afterward, the Sonozakis living in Okinomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, the big-name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many of their followers with them. However, much my parents refused. They piled up many 100,000 yen bills, calling it consolation money every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after they had passed 2 million yen, they were then given an envelope containing a letter. I don't know what was written in the letter. My parents talked about it themselves for 2 whole nights, and decided to move away. Oh, okay.
そっか。
Okay, again, that must have been a little bit of a tear into the Higuverse there, a little bit.
引っ越しちゃうんだね。
uh,
いつ？
来月の終わり。Hinamizawaには結局半年も居つかなかったことになるな。
寂しくなるね。私一人しか残らない。
I guess so. You do have a point. That's sad. Rena smiled sadly. If I had just said yeah, I thought it would make her even more lonely, so I changed the subject.
こう考えることがあるんだ。
And that's how I broached it. Mion hadn't actually fled, but had been demoned away in the truest sense of the term. Where she went after she disappeared, That we didn't know. What was there where she had disappeared to? I hope there was a hobby shop dealing in imports. The kind Mion liked. In that place, she would definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of family. And live not as Mion Sonozaki, but as just Mion, and enjoy herself. That is the most optimistic way we can think of it. Maybe she's already met up with Satoko and Rikacho. And they must also have been waiting for the day Rena and I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities, and living as they always were. When I told Rena that, she smiled and nodded to me. The incidents of the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide, too, were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny scene. The serial incidents of recent years all pulled up like a long vine in the ground, one by one. And for many days, news of it was brought up on talk and variety shows. Like, it is being revealed once again here to the world. They couldn't hide such a thing. The shows, which were comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion had been bearing. It made me mad to see them bringing the stuff in the chest, but there was nothing I could do about it now. Yeah. Not even while watching TV, while we were looking up like quiz shows and such, we see this stuff pop up on TV as well, which makes it even worse. Keiichi cannot even enjoy his quiz shows. How big an impression would these short few weeks I spent in Hinamizawa have been on my life? During these few weeks, I met all my best friends and had the best experiences of my life. I'll probably never forget it for as long as I lived. As for the distorted image of Mion that the media created, after the masses got tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her in the trash, and then she would fade from their memories. As somebody, as one of the few people who knew the real Mion, I must always make sure I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that will surely become my offering to her. The sky reached so far up, and towering cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. Cumulonimbus, okay. Cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. The real summer was just before our eyes. Even now, whenever 10 p.m. came around, I would expect a phone call from Shion. Or Mion, rather. Now that everything was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me this time. Plus, Mion still hadn't been caught. And I couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. Man, like I get the feeling that this chapter is gonna end soon. And, well, Keiichi actually didn't die. He is here, trying to process everything and trying to live with everything that happened. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Mion was safe. When I felt like that, I was able to sleep, even with such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before, her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. No. The moonlight flittering through the gap in the curtains shone on the desk, and illuminated the doll. That's right, the doll that I should have given to Mion that day. She said it was an import from England or something, and was all the rage, didn't she? From what Shion said, the most popular among them were the ones wearing the fluffy dress. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy store. Everything was apparently sold out besides the things on the storefront displays. I was refused once they said they wouldn't sell the display products. But when they realized I was Survivor A from that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her again. Even knowing that, I waited for the opportunity to give it to her. I waited like this, for the opportunity, with it on the desk, so I could give it to her at any time. Plonk. That was a weird noise. Huh? It was a noise I wasn't used to hearing. It was too big to be raindrops. And it was completely different from the sound lost bugs make when they ram into fluorescent lights. I figured I must have misheard, and nestled back into my futon. Plonk. The noise happened again. Oh god. You know, before I would joke that maybe it was Rena, but not anymore. I wasn't hearing things. I definitely heard it. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where, though? I listened carefully. Plonk. The window. Some sort of pebbles were colliding with my window. Oh? When I realized they weren't being blown there by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person, I gave a start. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. 2 a.m.? Who would it be at a time like this? Could it really be Mion? Or Shion? I quietly peeked out front, through the gap in the curtains. Or maybe Rana? In the light of the gate, despite it being so late, I saw someone. They picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at this window. It hit the window and made a plunking noise. Who was it? I caught my breath in surprise. Who is it? Shion? Mion. If my eyes were deceiving me, that person was Mion. I threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes certainly weren't deceiving me. You know, at this point in the stage, with what I've thought of before, who knows? It was Mion. About the infection and how grave it is, like how much of what Keiichi's seeing is real at this point. It was Mion. She was alive. But who knows, maybe it is true, maybe it is Mion. Mion pressed her index finger to her lips and made a shh motion, so I wouldn't shout. If she hadn't, well, I was nearly about to cry out. Mion was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was the middle of the night, I shouldn't call out her name. I waved to her, gesturing that I'd be right over, flung on my coat atop my pajamas, and flew out the door. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had the sad feeling that this would be our final parting. So I went back to my room again and grabbed the doll. Man, not fear from what Mion did that day in that torture room, but a mix of happiness and sadness. If there was a god, I don't think I would have ever thanked him as much as today. Even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other, I was so grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandals, unlocked the door, unhooked the chain, and leapt out of the house.
ミオン
お久しぶり。どう？元気にしてた？
Well, he is trying to survive. He was like how we used to meet every morning. Mion waved to me and responded like she always did. He was doubtlessly Mion. He was the real Mion.
お前、こんなところをうろついてて、大丈夫なのか？
本当はいけないよ。
She certainly wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. It was almost like she was a patient who had gotten tired of staying in the hospital and had snuck out. Her speech was relaxed enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That relaxation, I thought, was more like Mion, and I was happy for it.
それより、どうしたんだよ、こんな時間に。
最後にお話ししたかったから。
And that was when I noticed them. On Mion's forehead were big droplets of sweat. Her expression too, which I thought to be a satisfied smile, was, upon closer inspection, trembling slightly. And I realized that she was forcing it.
私ね、もうここにはいられない。
Ooh, what was that laugh? A pained note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her.
大丈夫か？どこか具合でも。
今日まで頑張ってきたけど自分でもわかるの。
Oh God.
もうダメ、もう限界。私のお迎えはもうすぐ後ろまで来てる。
Mion's smile crumbled and started to stifle. Did she push herself this much to come all this way for me? Her laughter cut off and changed into rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away.
大丈夫かよ。もう無理するな。そうだ。俺、ミオンに。
To give you, Mion, this doll. I wanted to do this one last thing, because I knew how little time you had left. But this last thing, it... Oh God, what happened? My stomach is burning. Mion, why? Mion took a meat cleaver-like knife and stabbed me, and pushed it in tight, and took it, and twisted it. Mion? Hey. What? It hurts.
間に合った、間に合った。
I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot, it was almost spewing fire. Mion watched it, and took a few steps back, and cackled.
できた、全部できた。私が殺したいやつはこれで全員。
The last words Mion left me with that day came back to me. Like, I'm seriously tearing up here. Like, the second that Mion stabbed Keiichi there. Like, I really don't want to see... Like, I don't want to see her like this.
今日を境にミオンが戻ってくることはもうない。
From today on, if my body is here, the body is all it will be. By then, the demon will have taken it over. The demon. The demon. The demon. In this can't. I thought we had finally been able to meet. This can't. Mion. In a pool of blood of my own design is the doll I bought for Mion. Dyed in red. So red. Mion. And the good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more. And the misfortune of that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful or cursed? My emotions were neither of those, as my consciousness sunk deep into a black swamp. The doll I bought for Mion, the blood, had ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. Ruined. The sad moon was so white. It looked frozen. June 28, 1983. A violent incident occurred in Hinamizawa village, Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. And the victim was Keiichi Maebara, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. And what did I say before? That this time around Keiichi would actually survive. Trying to process all of this in this chapter. I guess it was too early for me to say that. At around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a bladed object by the suspect of the last case, Mion Sonozaki, and was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up, and was then transported to the clinic. He escaped death. The criminal fled the scene. On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fatal accident occurred in Kamishiki apartment complex in Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. What? A fatal accident? The victim was Shion Sonozaki, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Later on the same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used the master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. Oh god. The room had been torn apart and appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor has frequently visited the Sonozaki house for a long time, and testified that he heard what sounded just like two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believe this was related to an injury case that occurred the same day in Hinamizawa village, perpetrated by said incident suspect, and did a thorough search of the room, but we could not find any traces that would imply that anyone but the victim was present. The victim fell straight down into the foliage of a parking strip. Her neck broke and she died immediately. Her clothing was disheveled and had markings that would imply a skull. We also believe, however, that it could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt, based on the particular mental state of the victim after the incident. We are conducting a further examination on both fronts, suicide and homicide. One day we will rectify this.
本当に5分だけですからね。
It will take a really long time, but there will be an end to all this. Like what happened in chapter 1, what happened now, that will be over one day. It has to.
刺激しないようにしてください。
心得ていますよ。
Clack clack. The door opened, and as I expected, Oishi-san came in.
どうも前原さん。
Hello there, Oishi.
ご無沙汰しておりますね。その後、お加減はいかがですか？
医者が言うには術後の回復は順調だそうですが、あんたの顔を見たらまた傷が悪くなりそうです。
Well, Keiichi still has the energy to make some jokes there.
こりゃ手厳しい。
As Oishan gave a laugh that swelled of sweat, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candies he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital.
すみません、お母さん。ほんのしばらく圭一君とお話しする時間をいただいてもよろしいですか？
Mom clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted.
母さん、悪いけど、ほんのちょっとだけ。5分でいいから。
Though grudgingly, Mom left the room. When she closed the door, Oishi-san grinned wildly and looked around the room.
個室なんていい身分ですね。うちのばあさまなんかいっつも相部屋ですよ。そりゃもう賑やかなことで、ああいうところじゃ病気の重さが一つのステータスになるらしいんですよ。より重病な患者ほど偉いというか、威張っているというか。
大石さん、5分ですよ。できれば、これが本当に最後の5分にしてほしいものです。俺はもうhinamizawaとは関係ないし、ここももうhinamizawaじゃない。
沖宮には総合病院はありませんからね。椅子よろしいですかな。ゆっくらしゅっと。
This was the large university hospital in Shishibone City. Oh. Could this be the same hospital where Rena was, like years ago? Well, not years ago, but the hospital that was talked about in the first chapter, where Rena was plenty or entirely different from the likes of Hinamizawa no Kinomiya. It was hard to believe Hinamizawa was part of the same city.
転院はいつ頃になりそうですか？
さあ、俺的にはいつでも OK なんですけどね。
Can you not say the word transferred? Like, I know you meant it in a general sense, but it's not a good word, like at all, around here. Our moving plans were delayed a little because of my serious injury. And my parents had already left the house in Hinamizawa, though, and were living in our new one. They planned to have me transferred to hospitals to be closer to the new house once I recovered enough to be taken there.
転院先にまで来ないでくださいよ。本当に具合が悪くなりますからね。
いや、すっかり嫌われちゃいました。仕事柄とはいえ心苦しいですよ。なので今日はこれまでの罪滅ぼしに素敵なお土産をいろいろお持ちしましたので。
別にクッキーの詰め合わせなんか持ってこなくても。
I mean, if you don't want them, I could just take them.
それがね、実は中身はクッキーじゃないんですよ。ほら。
Oishi-san pulls open the canned cookies and... What? Ow, ow. Stretching my scar.
前原さんの好みがわからなかったので、いろいろと持ってきましたよ。ほら。よりどりみどり、野原は黄緑ってなもんです。
What?
さあさ、好きなだけ持っていっちゃってください。
Thank you?
こんな本なんか持ってこないでください。
Yeah, I mean... If it's Jesus.
持って帰って持って帰って。いってててててて。
健全な若者がこんなところにずーっと閉じ込められてたら、さぞやご入り用だと思ったんですけどね。こんなところにいると看護師フェチにしかなりませんよ。世の中には看護師さん以外にも素晴らしいものがいっぱいあるんですからね。今から専門を決めないで幅広く。
Well, he does have a point. Like me personally, I am into bunny girls, that's for sure. What about you, Keiichi?
オールラウンドに行かなくっちゃ。
I gave Wish-san's vulgar laughter a pain grin. Somehow or other, I understood. The fact that Wish-san was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important to talk about.
シオンさんの件は本当にお気の毒でした。
The night I was stabbed by Mion, Shion fell from her balcony and died. They said the police were investigating all possibilities: accident, suicide, and homicide. But it can only have been Mion's doing. Mion found out where Shion was hiding and pushed her down to her death. Nothing else was concealable.
事故のわけない。ミオンです。絶対に。
鑑識の連中は自殺だとしか思えないなんて言ってるんですが、私も前原さんと同じ意見です。シオンさんを突き落とし、さらにあなたを刺した。一晩のうちにね。
ミオンはまだ見つからないんですか？
そうそう。それを今日はお伝えしたくて来たんですよ。はい。実は見つかったんです。
No.
て。
Learning that felt rather strange to me. You captured her, or you know where she is? I was partly relieved that the incident was truly over, and I was partly sorry that my best friend had finally been caught. I felt many other things too. My heart was a maze of emotions.
それだけじゃない。園崎家の例の地下、隠し井戸も見つかったんですよ。前原さんがおっしゃられてた通り、失踪者全員の遺体をその底で発見しました。
Oh God.
そうですか。
That sliver of hope, that possibility I believed in, that Rika-chan and Satoko were alive. Just when the fact that the remains had been found. Gone.
あの地下に実に巧妙に隠されてましてね。いやいや、まさに死角中の死角でした。井戸状に掘られた垂直トンネルでして、はしごが設けてあって、下へずーっと行ったところに、今度は横へ抜けるトンネルが作られていました。そこを数百メートルも張って進むと、なんと山中の古井戸に抜けられましたね。
過去の園崎家の当主が作らせた秘密の逃げ道だったんでしょうね。
でしょうな。明治以降に作ったものでしょうが、いやいや、よくもあんなものを作ったもんです。
Man, the more I'm hearing about it, the more it seems like a pain to traverse through that whole place.
みんなの遺体はその底に。
はい。逃げ道の通路よりもさらに下にコールタール状の泥水が溜まってまして、そこに無造作に投げ込まれていました。
Cold heart.
相当の高さから落としたわけですから、遺体はどっぷりと埋まってしまってましてね。遺体の引き上げにはだいぶ苦労させられました。
全員見つかりましたか？
I hoped that they at least wouldn't find Rika and Satoko. And that's what I wished for when I asked. But my shallow hope was crushed in a blink of an eye.
はい、全員。それどころか死後10年以上経過したと思われる人骨も見つかりました。最低でも3人分はあると思われます。Hinamizawaの歴史の暗部というわけでしょうな。泥を全部吸い出したら一体何人分の骨が出てくるやら。怖い話です。
And that weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the whole time. Mion.
今、鹿骨市内の過去数十年の失踪者を洗い直しているところです。諦められてた失踪事件もこれを機に全部解決するんじゃないかなんて言われてますよ。
After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Wish-san went for his cigarettes to pass the time, but realized this was a non-smoking area, so he gave up and put them back in his shirt pocket.
そうそう。これは寄り道なんですが、古出里香さん、ご存知ですよね。
もちろん
Yeah?
仲間ですから。
彼女、例えば糖尿病でインスリンの注射を常用していたとか、そんな話はありました？
Oh. Rika-chan has diabetes? I didn't know what he was talking about.
実は彼女のスカートのポッケからですね、注射器が見つかりまして。
A syringe.
破損していたので薬物は特定できなかったのですが、少々不似合いだったので興味を持ちまして。本当にご存知ありません？
No? Okay, at this point I'm doubting that was insulin. I didn't know anything about Rika-chan carrying syringes around with her.
園崎家は本業の方、薬剤屋さんのことです。で、覚醒剤を扱ってるとの噂がありましてね。その可能性もあるかなんて思ってたのですが。
リカちゃんが覚醒剤の常用者だっていうのか？
いえいえ、そうは申してませんよ。ただ、お醤油をもらいに行くついでに注射器を持っていくってのは、どう考えても変ですからね。
That is a good point. Maybe just like in the first chapter, as I thought, maybe it is a cure to the curse, possibly. No way this is diabetes or anything like that. I have no idea what any of this means. My eyes are spinning. I feel sick.
大丈夫ですか？看護師さんを呼びましょうか？
大丈夫ですから。話の続きを。
まあ、注射器の話はそれだけです。それだけが個人的に気になったもので。
But where did Rika get that? I guess in similar fashion to how I questioned in the first chapter, like where Mion got that syringe from. That maybe she has access to the cure. Because the Sonozaki or the secret organization are dealing with this stuff, with cures and such, to try to find the root to this curse. But now Rika has it? Unless Rika took it from Mion while she was there. But I guess in that sense, Mion never really cared about getting rid of that syringe. I guess because they didn't think that we would ever find Rika's body? That would be the case. Like, the syringe would be just as hidden as Rika herself. Except now we found her, and thus now we found the syringe. Rika-chan.
リカさん、村のマスコットみたいなところがありましたからね。今、村は騒然としてるみたいですよ。盲信してた年寄り方と殺してしまった園崎家とで、実効支配していた御三家もほぼ全滅状態。こんなタイミングでまたダムの話が出てきたりしたら、今度こそ間違いなく敗損でしょうな。
もう俺、Hinamizawaとは関係ありませんから。
Like she was. I just said it because the thought about Hinamizawa being abandoned was unpleasant. And I wanted to end the conversation quickly. There was a knock at the door. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Now that I'm thinking about it, Keiichi is in a similar situation to Rena in the sense that now that he transferred out of the village, I wonder if he's going to be fighting with the curse as well now. It's so weird, though. It feels like it's weird to describe the curse, like in this chapter, when it comes to Keiichi's perspective. It opens slightly. My mom asked if we were still talking.
ありゃ、無駄話が過ぎましたか。参ったな。
I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, and if she could wait a little bit longer.
そう？手短にね。
There wasn't any getting around the fact that she was thinking about what a police officer could be talking to her son about.
日を改めた方が良さそうですね。
大石さん、ミオンは今、どうしてるんです？
I wanted to just hear the answer and then get rid of him.
それを話す前に、前原さんに一個だけ。
What is it?
本当に正直に答えてもらいたいことがあります。
何ですか？
本当に真面目に答えてくださいよ。これ、いい加減なこと言っちゃうと、場合によっては捜査か乱と見られて告発される場合もありますからね。
Oh. Oishi-san kept threatening me until the end. What the hell did he want?
前原さん、シオンさんを突き落とした犯人は誰だと思います？
ミオンしか考えられないじゃないですか。
では、あなたを刺したの誰です？
That is a good point. Because it was said that it was around that same time that Shion just fell from the 8th floor balcony. There is a big distance between Keiichi's house and where Shion was in the city, so could he really be the same person? That is a good point.
何度も言わせないでください。ミオンですよ。園崎ミオン。
Oishi-san smiled bitterly, then dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and he looked as though he wasn't satisfied with it.
シオンを突き落として、俺を刺して。ミオンの犯行だって、さっき大石さんも認めたじゃないですか。
シオン殺しの犯人がミオンだという根拠は、隣人の男の証言によるものなんです。この隣人ってのは、実は暴力団組員、つまりシオンさんのボディーガードだったんですよ。このうちのリーダー格が古参で、園崎姉妹が幼いうちから親身になってた男なんだそうで。
That man said this. The noise he heard from the next door was just like the sound of a fight between the sisters that he was used to hearing when they still lived together. Oh man. Okay, so we have two options here. Like, either what happened at Keiichi's place is not what we think it is, or what happened at Shion's place is not what we think it is. Either it could be true that Mion is the one who stabbed Keiichi, and there was someone else who made Shion fall like 8 floors. And the bodyguard was basically lying about this. Or Mion was actually there to begin with. Whereas on Keiichi's side over here, it could be the curse. His mind thinks that Mion did it, when in actuality, maybe he stabbed himself or someone else stabbed him there. And no, there was no doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other, and heard them struggling. At first though, he thought it was a hallucination she was having, brought on by her dementia. You see, he thought that because that sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. However, that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down while he got the manager to give him the key. He'd already decided he'd at least check up on her, and after she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and locked the door. Then they saw that the room was a mess. Since Shion had been pushed over to the balcony, they decided it had to be Mion. And that's how it happened.
つまり壁越しに聞いたというだけなんです。しかもこのマンション、組の関係で住人がほとんどいないんです。ですからこの騒ぎを聞いてたのも彼らだけ。重ねて言えば園崎ミオンを目撃した者は誰一人いないんです。
見なくったって、そんなのミオンの犯行だってわかるじゃないですか。
まあまあ、だからつまりですね、あなただけがあの晩確かに園崎ミオンを目撃した唯一の人間ってことになるんです。もう一人の目撃者のシオンさんは生きておられませんからね。
大石さんが何を言いたいのかよくわからないんですけど。